After we've bound the signatures into the cover in the last video, I was sitting here and flipping through my Poppyfield Avenue junk journal for the very first time because I have removed all of the paper clips, and then I was sitting here flipping through it, and that is always for me a very special moment because yeah, that is the moment where I can see my journal like for the first time and not only the loose signatures in front of me. And then this journal proved again that there are obviously those kind of journals where everything can happen. This is so crazy. If you, sorry, this is just for my own orientation. We will need this in this video. I'm so sorry. I need this to remember which page I want to use for today's idea. I was sitting here and I was thinking, what could I do with these like strange pages? Because if you have followed this series, you know that we did some really wild things on the pages, also with the ephemera pieces. And from that, we got some, on the one hand, interesting things on the pages. But on the other hand, also some things where at first glance you could think, oh my goodness, what have I done and what shall I do next? That this crazy stuff here becomes something beautiful and that it blends into the design of the journal. And then I came to the idea to use some transparency for making some little things like pockets and tuck spots, perhaps even 1 or 2 belly bands or so, because I thought here are, this is not such a good example, here are some pages like this, for example, where I had the feeling that if I would glue something opaque over here, the whole thing would be destroyed. And with that, well, this thought came because I saw this rectangle. Is this a rectangle? No, this triangle here, which came because we have put one of these triangular tuck spots from the ephemera pack on here, and then we did our little technique, removed it, and with that we got this triangle here. And this somehow provides like a little window or so into this scenery here on the page. And then I thought if I put something opaque over here, I would totally lose that. And with that, I came to the idea to make something transparent. And originally I thought I want to take these packages here. These are just from die cuts and from stamp sets and so on. I think you can easily find something like this in your trash can, or perhaps you are like me and you save these things when you buy new products and they are wrapped into something like this. But you could also take something, you know, like a food packaging or so. I think such a transparency is easy to find. And when I thought about that and prepared this video, I came across this page here. This page had me for such a long time because I thought this here looks somehow like a frame, doesn't it? Because of this masking tape and the stenciling around it, somehow looks like a frame. And this poppy flower here is in the center of this frame. It looks nearly like there was a picture or so on a wall, and the wall has this urban sketch here somehow. That was what was in my mind. And then I thought, what if we take something, make a pocket from this, so that we then can put something into the pocket? Then it makes sense because this is transparent and we can see what is in the pocket, you know, fully see that because this is transparent. And when we take it out, we see this and the transparency is still on here, and we could even make something like a real frame or so that it looks framed. So that was the idea. And then something happened, and that is what we are going to do in this video as well, yeah? So don't panic. But then something happened and I thought, wait, could it be possible to print some of the ephemera pages from the Poppyfield Avenue collection to some overhead transparency? So I went to my printer and it's so funny. I took this page here from the ephemera pack and this page and also this page. And I took my overhead transparency, put that into my printer, and then I came back here. So these pages were laying here on the table already, and I was at my printer with my overhead transparency. Then I came back, and then I was like, what the heck has happened? Because I had this, and for my organization here on the table, I wanted to put this here so that I don't mix up the things and that I can explain well to you what I'm doing here. And then I was like, wait, what the heck has happened here? And I was like, oh no, this is mirrored. Yeah. So first I thought I had it wrong, the wrong direction in my hand, but then I realized this is not the front of this transparency, so it is correct in this direction. And then I was like, oh no, this is mirrored, what a disaster, why did this happen? Because of course when you want to craft along, I want that you have the same things on your desk like I do here. Yeah. And I was like, okay, let's print this again so that it's the original direction of the original print. And then I had it like so, and then I was like, wait, what is that? Because look, can you see that? Wait. Here, for example, this little thing here on the sheet looks like this. Here are these little leaves, and here it's pretty much white because here on this little photo, there's also nearly nothing. I'm so in love with these photos. These are so cool for focal points and everything. This is so much of memory somehow and such a wild mix. I'm really in love with these sheets. And then I thought, but when I put this over here and this thing which originally came from here is over this picture, then we have something new. I mean, how cool is that? And we can then also alter this here if we want, or just put it over each other, and then we have the coolest thing ever. I mean, look how cool these trees look in front of this bookshelf there. The original picture is like that, and I would have never come to the idea to put these twigs here, excuse me, in front of the books. Also this here, I really, really like this because this is so, like, it tells a story somehow, also here, and somehow this is for me like the present and the past are coming together. This has a really meaningful thing behind it for me. And also here, when I look at the couple here, they are walking here in the past, and somehow perhaps this is the present now, that there's a memory of them, and he, especially he, has the memory of the time he had together with her, and now this is like faded because this transparency makes it a little bit milky, but this memory of the stationery nook and everything which happened there is still in the present. Do you know what I mean? And I find this so interesting. Then I realized that the others are also mirrored. I have to admit, with this sheet here, when it's mirrored, it's not so my cup of tea. I don't like it so much when it's over here. That looks somehow weird. It's a little bit too crazily red for me. This, for example, would work, I think. This row here, imagine this was like a belly band or single pieces. Also, this here would work, this as well, and both of these. But here, it's a little bit weird. So perhaps not every sheet speaks this. Yeah, perhaps it's not possible with every sheet you might have. Perhaps you don't even have this printable. You could then try it, obviously, with other printables as well. But what I'm trying to say is, if you mirror your images on purpose, because, you know, if your printer doesn't make this mistake like my printer did, and I even couldn't find out why it did it, it might be that it doesn't work so well for everything. Because here, for example, the original images are in this sepia tone. It makes a totally different vibe to this somehow if we do it like this. But for example, this here, this is absolutely amazing. I see these both of these people like in the present, and this here is like the past, or you could even see it. I mean, then it would be like, yeah, it's perhaps it's only in my brain. Perhaps this is just only in my brain. But also, if he would be over here. And then we would need to shift it a little bit, but perhaps like so. He's here then in the present alone, but he has still the memory of where they have been together. Does that make sense? So in this video, I want to show you an idea on how to make pockets and little tuck spots and other storage possibilities from transparencies and this overhead transparency. But I want to start with this kind of transparency because I think not everyone has overhead transparency. So we will split the video / the ideas in two parts, okay? We will first do this, where I think that everyone can get something like this, and then we can go on with this idea in the second part of the video, where we then can do something with that. But in any case, I want to use the sheets, these, which are printed on the normal paper. This is 200 GSM photo paper, by the way. I want to use these to put them into the pockets we made from this trash material, if that makes sense. So I have already chosen some pages where I thought that this idea could make sense, but I think I want to start with this here because this has, this is like the initial point of this whole thing. So I thought, what would happen if we take some kind of a pen which works on transparency? And by the way, perhaps that is not so clear. This is a packaging, so that means it's like a little sleeve. So you can open this here, and here we have now two layers of the transparency, one here and one there, because it's already like a pocket. But I want to use both of the layers for my idea. I want to get rid of this little flap here first, because I'm assuming that this stickiness will die over time, so that we have like a normal piece of something without this sticky part. And I want to use both of these layers. So if you perhaps have a transparency which is only one layer, then please just take 2 layers of the transparency. I have this and it's easy, but if you want to do what I do here, you need 2 layers of the transparency for this idea. But I thought if you have such a sleeve, that could be a good idea, because that way you already have this pocket and it's easier to handle. So what I want to do is I want to try to get the rest out of this golden pen here. This is just an adding in gold. You could use any other kind of pen as well, but please make sure that it's permanent on this transparency material. And now I want to look. This is probably now pretty hard to see where my frame is on the page. So I want to do the same thing like we did in the other videos. I want to have the orientation from what I already have on my page. So that means, well, perhaps we should first, we can do that later. I will do it like so, that I put this on here. And now, can you see this masking tape? It gives me the orientation that the transparency shall end here. So that means I line it up here, and then can you see this corner here? I just, okay, the pen is dying, oh no. Okay, let me see. I have a second one, but I think I have a problem now. Wait, we will finish this and then I will fix this problem there. So I stopped here so that I now can go along here, because this masking tape gives me the next orientation. I want the pocket exactly in the size of this frame, which is already here. Now, here on the left, you can see the transparency is a little longer. So that means I need to somehow cut it there, and I want that it ends here. Oh my goodness, my perfectionism is killing me right now. Doing something like this without a ruler and without having a straight line, it is really hard. So then here on the top, where do we want this? We need to go along here. Here it's a little bit weird because there's also such a line, but I go with the stenciling here on the right, and then I go along here like that. So then we put this away and we quickly solve this problem. No, it doesn't work. I have this pen here. Hopefully I can go over this now without any problems. And this is one of those pens where you need a tool to open that. Is this... Well, I need to do it like this as well. Okay. Sometimes, and please try to avoid that, this I can see that it happens here as well. When you go over such a thing twice with such a pen, it can happen that the second layer removes the first layer, and that looks a little bit shitty. Sorry for that language, but that's how I see it. But this is what I want to have. So that means this thing here is now exactly the size of this frame, and I think this already looks pretty amazing. This is like highlighting the poppy flower now, but I think we can make that even more interesting. So now I have to think about this. How do I need to do this now? We have to make this work, we have to first close this thing here and here, because I want to put something in between of these layers here. That's why I said use such a sleeve or use 2 layers of transparency for this idea. I want to fill it with something. So that means I will run to my sewing machine now, and I will sew along here and along here, and even if it is closed here by production, I will sew up here so that I have a U shape of sewing, and that it goes like, you know, all around, and not all around, sorry, yeah, all around except this here, so that it's open here. I will quickly do it, okay? I have the feeling I can't talk today and I can't explain this. I will be back in a second. I'm so sorry. Hey. On my way to the sewing machine, I tried to remember myself that I say to you, if you don't have a sewing machine, just use double-sided tape here, or you could sew it by hand, or however you want to close it, yeah, just close it with the possibilities you might have. Double-sided tape would work pretty well, of course. And now I'm thinking, why do I have a sewing machine? I mean, I wish I just have used double-sided tape. But now it's closed here and here it was already closed, so I don't care about this stuff. And I can now just cut it off here so that I have my pocket in the right size. Okay, so then I thought, what if we take some tiny pieces and throw them into this pocket here, and then we close it and we glue it down as a pocket. There have been some questions about a pocket I had in this journal here, which is my Raggedy Turtle Bloom journal. If you want to know more about this, there's a whole playlist on my channel about this journal and the paper collection. And there, in here somehow, somewhere, I had a pocket which also was filled with some things, and you had some questions about that, even if I had explained how I did it in the paper premiere, but obviously perhaps it was not good enough or so. Here, can you see it's made with the same idea behind? I have some things in here and these little snippets, and this here then goes behind here. So that means when you take it out, you see this, and this here is then in here, but the pocket is still transparent, and this is then in front of that. And some of you have been confused how I made that, so I thought we could take the same idea here and yeah, make something similar, because I didn't have a video about the other pocket, so I thought I explain it just in this series and with this pocket. It's exactly the same thing like in the other journal. I took this and then I took some mica flakes. These originally looked like like so. So these are the mica flakes by Ranger and Tim Holtz. And when you buy them, they come in this little jar and they look like this. So normal mica flakes, yeah. And then you can tint them if you want. You could even use them in the original color. And I'm just thinking, perhaps I will on this page even do that and use them in this color, because here is such a light page that could make sense. But you could also tint them, and that is what I did. Is tint the correct word? I mean, you could stain them, color them, change the color of them. I don't know how I can say that in English. And then they have the color you want, but you need to do this with alcohol ink. So what I did was, I took some of my favorite colors of alcohol ink, and then I took a little container. I'm just cracking myself up. I love drunk journaling so much. I just want to say, this here is this color, and look how it's called. It's called Poppy Field. And when I did this, I didn't know anything about the paper collection. I didn't know the name of the paper collection. And to be honest, I have no idea about the names of the alcohol inks. Perhaps if you already know me, you know I know every other name of the distress colors. But these from the alcohol ink are not so familiar to me yet, because I rarely use alcohol ink. I have some, but you know, and now this says Poppy Field. How cool is that? So I took a container, not this one. This is just for storage, yeah, for storing these flakes here. I took a different container, put some mica flakes in there, then alcohol ink, just a few drops. Then I have taken a wooden stick, stirred it around. Yeah, you can just stir it, and then you have to let them dry, and then you can put them in here. The only thing, and I say that so aggressively because there have been confusions in the past, and there have been people who have messaged me and said, Luise, this doesn't work, it doesn't dry, me. The only medium you can use for doing something like this is alcohol ink, okay? Please don't try that with your distress ink refiller. Don't try that with oxide ink refiller. It will not work because it's not made for that. But alcohol ink will do the job, okay? So I have here Poppy Field, the color Poppy Field, and this is, I don't know what this is. To be honest, I think here are even more than one color in here, but I thought this would fit well to this. And these little containers are just these little containers where the embossing glaze also comes in, and you can buy them also without the label, but you could use any other container as well. I just had these and thought that is a good idea. And then I have this brown here, but for this, I mean, the page is pretty cold somehow. And if I now take these and put them in there, then it is like a little bit shiny, glittery, and what mica flakes can do. But oh wait, why don't we just try it out? Luise, what's going on with your brain? Let's just try it out. We can always take them out if we don't like it. So I take a few of these. Can you even see that? Yeah. It is nice. I think I like when there's a little bit of this stuff in there. But I think I want a second color as well. But this already looks really nice. And if you don't have mica flakes, you could, of course, obviously also use any other kind of shakety-shake stuff, yeah? Or everything you could put into shaker cards. You could use for this as well, like little beads. How are these things called? Sequences. Is that the word? So you can use whatever you might have, which is flat and which you could put into a pocket. I wouldn't choose anything which is too thick, and don't choose sharp things because then it could happen that you destroy this plastic, and obviously we don't want that. I think this is pretty cool. To be honest, I thought I would put one color in one of these pockets, but now I'm a little bit obsessed because this is just the right amount. For my taste, it can't be more red than this. But this is cool. Let's also throw in some tiny, tiny letters from Poppyfield Avenue. These are stamped with the Curator stamp set by Stampers Anonymous and Tim Holtz. You could obviously also take some other tiny bits and pieces or nothing, would also work. If you just say, oh, I don't want anything in here. But I really like this when it's in there, like so. Where is my... The thing is, and that is what I did for the Raggedy Turtle Bloom journal, or the pocket in that journal as well. The thing is, you want to put these approximately there where you want them to be later. We will not glue them down, and they will always move a little bit, and that's the plan. I want to have them flexible in there, but I would say put them approximately there where you want to have them, because this is a little bit tight on here somehow, because look, when I do it like so, they don't move so extremely much, and later on when you have them in, when you have this pocket in the journal, you will also probably not shake the journal around like an idiot. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So the position of these will approximately be like this later and forever, and that's what I want to have here. So then when we have that, I will now go to my sewing machine again, and I will sew around here again. Obviously, it would be enough to just sew along here to close this thing. But since this happened, I just want to, somehow get rid of this, even if it will stay here, by sewing over it again. Yeah, but I only sew around here again because of this problem and because I want to have this nice. It would be enough to just close this here so that the things can't fall out. So then this whole thing is closed, and this here now looks like it was done on purpose. I've just taken this, and while I was sewing over here, I've put it under the foot of my sewing machine so that it then provides this little fluffy thing here, and I think that looks really nice, and especially here on this edge that looks cool. So then let's perhaps think about, before we glue it on here, putting something on here which adds to this frame. And I'm thinking we could either take more of these, but I find this a little bit boring, to be honest. It looks weird when these are like crisscross and these are straight. So that would mean if we would do it like this, it could work. Sure. What do you think? Why not? We could perhaps even mix in some postage stamps. I had already taken some out, which could work here. And by the way, if you are new here, and perhaps this is the first video on this channel you are watching right now, then please, if you want to know more about this, the journal, the paper collection, and so on, please check out the description box. There's a playlist link, and in the playlist I have a ton of videos about this paper collection and how I made this journal. It's like, a nearly like step-by-step thing. I'm pretty proud, to be honest, because until today I could document my process of making this pretty seamlessly, and I'm a little bit proud because that is sometimes not so easy to do. Not because it's hard to make the journal, but when you are in a flow and then create something and then you want to at the same time record a video, it can be a little bit hard. But I think I managed this pretty well. Then sometimes you need to be proud of yourself, right? I think then we can already glue this down. What do you think? Yeah, let's glue it down. In the description box, there you also will find a link to a blog post about this journal and the paper collection. And there you can see pictures, photos, detailed photos, where you can also probably see a little bit more of the details than in a video like this, even if I really try to do my best to show you all of the details. But you know how that is on a like frozen picture or so. How can you say that? It's easier sometimes to see, and that's why there are a ton of photos on the blog post. There you can also find the most of the materials I have used for making this. You can find, for example, all of the stencils I've used, all of the stamps and so on, and other things which I thought, oh no, what is going on here? Could be helpful. The glue came out there. What the heck? Here we go. We don't. Okay. Now I have it. Perhaps it would have been better to sew through here instead of gluing it, because then it's easier, especially for people like me. Impatient. It takes a little while until this is completely dry on the transparency. So I have put my double-sided tape along here so that I now can glue this whole piece down, and it's then a pocket, even if it is already a pocket, but it's closed, it's then like a shakety-shake pocket. And we obviously now want to line this up so that it sits here in exactly the correct position. Like so. And then let's decide which of these photos we want to put in there. I think this is too much compared to this. It's too bam somehow. And the width, if I see where the double-sided tape is, I think it's by coincidence exactly the width of one of these strips. But perhaps you need to adjust that a little bit when you do that with your own things. I mean, well, if you follow my steps with these videos, it should be the same size, because the frame, the size of the frame that was given to us by the size of the ephemera, which was on there, right? So if you have printed this and did it exactly like I did, it should be, even if you printed it on US letter size instead of DIN A4, it should be the same proportion. So it could happen that it works for you as well, that this strip is then exactly the size you need. But even if not, I would have no problem with cutting it, for example, like so, if the pocket was wider. Because, I mean, look, it's a nice thing. Why can't you cut it like so? Or even like this, if your pocket was more narrow. So let's see if this theory is correct. It's... Don't talk and cut at the same time, Luise, because now it's a little bit too small. It's just too small. Okay. Let me quickly fix this problem. We can use the other piece for another pocket. So let's see. But to be honest, it's pretty hard to see because the double-sided tape ends there. But hey? Ah, look! I'm not so stupid. I mean, look, this is just a little bit wider than this, but this here is what I used for measuring this, right? Because here, yeah, it needs to be this width, which this strip approximately already has. Mensch, 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 Mensch. That is a German saying, which means human, 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 or human being, human being, human being. Does that make any sense? I don't think so, but sometimes we say that. Yeah. And now it's sitting in between of the pieces of the double-sided tape, obviously. So it's a little bit smaller, but it can't be bigger. Except we could think about something. But let's first bring this to the right size. And I think I want to have both of these pictures. But to be able to take it out, it needs to be a little longer. If it's not too short, then I will run away. No, it isn't. So that it peeks out a little bit here, so that we have a chance to grab it. Just like this. Do you find this a problem, that it's here showing the design of the page? I mean, I'm just thinking we could avoid that by making this bigger and putting the tape then here. But then we would lose the frame. What do you think about that? To be honest, I'm a little bit, somehow a tiny little bit disappointed how this came out. But perhaps it's just me. Or perhaps it's the wrong image in here, or something is missing. That could also be. Could also be that something is missing, because this is somehow it's weird. Ah, okay. Okay. Can you see that? Let's put this stem on this edge here, okay? Where this lighter part is. And then when it's in here, it adds to this little cluster we made there. And it breaks this straight thing where you think, hey, something is missing here. Does that make sense? And another option, another option to break this here, this little weird thing. I mean, with break, I don't mean physically breaking, but visually breaking, obviously. We could take... We could use some of our quotes, right? I mean, I just wanted to print them because because I realized that I totally forgot to print them, because this was the last sheet, and there's even a second one in another color I made for this paper collection, and I had a test print and I didn't print it yet to the correct paper, and then it came out from my printer. And I thought, why is this Chinese now? I can't read anything. Yeah, because it's mirrored as well. And then I had a light bulb moment in front of my printer why this happened. This is mirrored, and also the other images here on the transparency, because my printer settings were still for this. Do you remember when we transferred the image to the fabric here? I needed to print it mirrored so that we could do this here, and that's why it is the wrong direction. So the second sheet with this color here is still printing. Oh, I think it just finished. So with the printable you get, I mean with the ephemera pack and the kit, you will get this in 2 different colors. And these quotes are not only quotes, but they are the lyrics of the Poppyfield Avenue soundtrack, which I created together with my dear friend Daniel Evans. I wrote the lyrics and then he did the rest. I just wanted to say the rest. That sounds so weird. Then he sang it and made the whole technical stuff around it. And that is absolutely amazing, because that way we can have, for example, this here. And this is the perfect thing, so that we don't see this little gap there anymore. Where is my tape? Because I'm thinking, yeah, that's possible. We could just attach it with tape. To avoid glue oopsies. Just like this. And this says, we used to meet at 9 p.m. down by the stationery nook, which is the first line of the song. And I mean, I think that fits really well. And I thought, it could be a nice thing for the printable to have the lyrics of the soundtrack as quotes, because then everything matches. Shall we quickly ink this a little bit? Perhaps just the tiniest little bit. I wish I had thought about this earlier, because then I would probably have taken another one and put that here and here somehow, but we could try something similar with this idea for the next pocket. Let's do that. Let's see, here I had another page where I thought this little area here would be perfect for such a pocket. Here we have this little scrap, which was torn off here because of the technique we did. You can see that in the other videos if you haven't followed the series yet. But there in the other videos I explained it in every single imaginable detail. And we did it together there. We could even leave this here because here it's closed, and I like when you can see that it is a pocket, that it was a packaging. And I'm thinking here, I want the frame, which we made in gold here, in black.
We used to meet at 9 p.m. down by the stationery nook. Just the two of us, graffiti marks and streetlight ghosts. A hug, a kiss, that charming misprinted book, 'cause that was the one you loved the most. You tear out a page, then read a line or two. Your secret letters, hidden chapters I was longing for. You folded it and smiled. I love those words and you. And today, there's nothing I miss more. Send me letters from Poppy Field Avenue. Time-worn secrets, telling tales we knew were true. Wrapped in coffee and cinnamon air, the ceremonies we used to.
That is cool. So let's see. I think here on this page, this color of the quotes would fit better. Let's take just the two of us, graffiti marks and streetlight ghosts. I think especially here it's really graffiti-ish, even if this theme, or it's one of the themes which go through this journal, but I think on this page it's pretty cool to have this line of the soundtrack here. And by the way, on this sheet you can already see that here are some empty spaces, and also here on the end and the beginning here of each quote I left a little more of this material so that you have the possibility to either leave it like so or cut it off. I did that because some people like a little more space on the ends, because if you would leave it longer, you could also add some additional decoration, like for example some, say it, Luise, just say it. What's the word? These little brads, do you know? Then you could also attach it like a little, more label-ish thingy. Whoo! Why didn't I use tape here now? I have no idea. The next line would be a hug, a kiss, that charming misprinted book, but that's too long. But wait, let's try something. What if we cut it here? Then we have a hug, a kiss. And this here. And then we have somehow a frame around here, but let's pay attention to this problem with the double-sided tape inside of the pocket there on the right. We can't. Luise, we can't. Can we? Yes, we can. I'm so sorry. My brain isn't working so well today. If we would cover this up here, I mean, then if I would put it here, then it would cover up the gap. But with that, it also is not in the same spot like on this here and this, because it doesn't break the black here. For that it would need to go like so, and then we would still have a little gap there, but I want it like this. I think it looks weird when I glue it next to the black line. But even if we do it like, oh, come out, Mensch nochmal, which translates to human being again, Mensch nochmal. Even if I do it like this, it covers a little bit of the tape, and then the gap is not so extremely big. And I think that will look good. So then, how wide is this? Can we perhaps use this, which we've already cut? Yeah, this would need to be smaller, slimmer. Oh, here, this and this, that fits well. Okay, I will quickly cut this into the right size. That's weird. Here it looks totally different with these gaps than on the other page. I have the feeling. Here it really doesn't bother me. That is interesting. Okay, so then we have two of these made from the normal like trash transparencies. Let's now perhaps think about something we could do with the overhead transparencies. I had marked with these pages where I wanted to have the transparencies with my transparencies. Does that make sense? So yeah, I thought it could look cool if we had something like that as well. I'm thinking we would probably need I like this one better because this is more sepia than the other one. And I really like this. Here, this spot is way bigger than on the other page, but I've chosen this page because I wanted to show you that you can also, of course, make your pocket smaller than this frame is. On the other pages, we went with exactly the size of these things here, but we could, I think, also do it differently by choosing a portion we like. It's a bit dark, isn't it? Here, this is a little bit very busy and dark. Look at this. Here, can you see that? Here it makes way more sense. This is somehow destroying the picture here, but here it blends better into the background because we have this writing here and the flower starts, you know, it goes into the pocket then, but it starts more there. Does that make sense? I think this is good. And now let's think about something we will put into the pocket later now, because I think that is very important so that we can see this whole thing. Instead of just the pocket. I think this is already pretty cool. I want to take this. So that means, okay, that means we can have that in mind. This will probably be bigger later than the pocket is, but that is no problem. But this is good. Okay, so then we could either just glue this down, or what we also could do is, where is my thing here? We could think about making a shakety-shake thingy with this as well. Yeah, that will work. But this piece is too small. Can I somehow use this, which I had on the other page? No, that's too small. Oh, yep, it works. Okay. Let's see. It also already makes a difference. Here, the pen is on this layer. If I turn it around and it goes behind the transparency, it's not so black, and that is exactly what I want here. It's a frame, but it's not so massive. I will take this to my sewing machine. So now it's sewn here in this U shape again. Then we can cut this off where the transparency is too long. And I think I will also make a black line here so that we have a full frame. That way it looks a little bit more like a photo, I have the feeling. And then here let's throw in some of the mica flakes which are not colored. And the question is, shall we throw them behind the overhead transparency or here? Let's try to put them behind there, because look, it's now like so. We have two possibilities. Yeah, we could throw them in here, then they would be in front of this or behind that. Let me try something, because we could do this here with these as well. Now it's behind the overhead transparency. That's not so bad, because I'm thinking you could also, where are you? Why can't I feel it? You could also throw some of these things in here. Let them fall to the ground of the picture here. And then if you don't have a sewing machine, take a stapler. And if you have a sewing machine, run there again and sew along here so that they can't move anymore. Look, because that way you can add something. I would do that there where the lighter parts of the image are, and you can customize these transparent images like you want them, and that is really cool. It makes so much sense here. Oh, okay. So then so these are behind the overhead transparency. Let's then take some of these mica flakes and throw those here. That's too much, Luise. It can't be much, because otherwise we wouldn't see anything of this anymore, but I think this is good. Yeah. This reminds to the line, the cobblestones remembers. And then we can already, I think, sew this closed. And then let's quickly ink it so that we can't see anymore that it was cut there, that it has a nice frame again. Let's take this here, which says your letters. On the right side of these quote sheets you can find smaller snippets, snippets of the lines, smaller portions of the lines of the soundtrack. Like, for example, this little thing which says your letters, where I thought it would make sense to have them separately instead of in the whole context. So on those quote sheets you have the full lines of the song on the here on the left, and here on the right there are those smaller snippets and the smaller portions of the lyrics. And I thought we could do the following thing, because I did that because then you can do exactly what I'm doing here now, and you can build your own things with these. Let's take your letters. Put that here. Then you can see it here. And then we can take this. Oh no. No, it's covering up a lot of this. I think it needs to go here so that it doesn't cover up too much of this here. But I find this really interesting. This looks so cool. I mean, this is really simple, but I think this is really, it adds to this whole style, and especially with these like Polaroid-ish photos, it really adds to the whole thing. What about triangles?
From Poppy Field Avenue, the cobblestones remember us, though now they hum alone. I keep your words inside my coat, the corners worn and frayed, my footsteps lost beneath the haze of the silver moon. But your love in those words will never fade. Send me letters from Poppy Field Avenue, time-worn secrets, telling tales we knew were true. Wrapped in coffee and cinnamon air, the ceremonies we used to share. Every line a whisper, a memory to renew. Send them to me, your letters from Poppy Field Avenue. Postmarks wither, but time can blur what's true. Your words still bloom like poppies do. Your letters still hold that soft embrace. In every line I find more of you. Send me letters from Poppy Poppy Field Avenue. Time-worn secrets, telling tales we knew were true. Wrapped in coffee and cinnamon air, the ceremonies we used to share. Every line a whisper, a memory to renew. Send them to me, your letters from Poppy Field Avenue.
So I think that's it for today. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Not only this, but also the others. And suddenly I realized that now, since these are here, when we take this out, only this makes sense as a decoration on this page as well, or as an addition for the page somehow. That is really cool. I'm hoping that we will see you the next time again with another idea. This is so cool with these little snippets. And I hope you could get some inspiration from this. And perhaps you want to try this out. Let me know. See you the next time. Bye.